Joining us right now to talk more about it, CNN's senior military analyst, retired Admiral James Stav, a former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, part of the Carlyle Group. It's great to see you again. You also ran Southern Command, so you know this region well. I want to play for you another piece of sound. We had Senator Angus King on this morning, what he said.
It's all about the facts, Kate. The law is clear. If the facts are as have been alleged, that there was a second strike specifically to kill the survivors in the water, that's a stone-cold war crime.
Admiral, are we looking at a possible war crime, and who gives that order? Who would know?
Yes, I think Senator King is exactly right. I think the president is right when he says he would not have wanted that. I can't imagine any American would want us to machine gun survivors in the water. This is the functional equivalent of that. World War II, the Nazis did that. We didn't do that. So I think this one screams for a serious, under oath investigation. And I think that's what we're going to see. In terms of who gave the order, certainly the Secretary of Defense would have authorized the mission. He would have authorized the level of force, the lethality of the mission. After that, Kate, it becomes a tactical question, who actually gave the order for the second strike. This is exactly why we need a thorough investigation with a real timeline, a tick-tock, who said what, when, what was the result. But I can't imagine any American believes that we should be machine gunning people that are floating in the water, clearly not a threat to the United States.
Also, Admiral, you've been really helpful in gauging kind of the odds, if you will, and kind of laying out the odds since we started talking about these boat strikes. You have this meeting now that's going to be happening at the White House to talk about next steps in Venezuela. You add all of this, add in this new detail, add in this meeting, add in the phone call between President Trump and Nicolas Maduro. How likely are land strikes now, do you think?
I think it's a 2/3 chance we're going to see some form of strikes. Let's be clear here, Kate. What I think 2/3 chance we're going to see are drones, Tomahawk missiles, maybe some manned aircraft, probably going after drug-related sites. That fits in with the narrative the administration has laid out. What I think is unlikely, kind of highly unlikely, are a significant number of boots on the ground, maybe some special forces here and there. I think even that is very high risk. So at the meeting tonight in the White House, I think the president will formally receive these options, take advice from his cabinet, make a decision. I think it's a 2 in 3 chance over the next few days this week that we see some strikes. Break, the countervailing thought would be a good one, which is the ongoing potential conversations between the president and Maduro. Let's hope President Maduro wakes up to the reality of what he's looking at and decides, now's a pretty good time to head out to a hacienda outside of Havana. I hope he does that. If not, I think strikes are 2 in 3 chance.
Admiral, let me turn to Ukraine really quick and get your take, because you have Steve Witkoff is headed to Moscow after a weekend where there are talks with Ukraine and talks that Ukraine called productive and successful. One of the things clearly on the table, it's been since the draft of the deal to where they are now, is Ukraine handing over land to Russia. But the question, I guess, is that enough? Because if Putin's desire isn't just land, it's influence. I mean, how much more will Russia have influence on Ukraine and Europe post-war? And then why compromise on anything if that's his real goal?
Yeah, you put your finger on a very significant aspect that not enough people are talking about. Yes, Putin wants land. He wants the resources of Ukraine. What he really wants is respect. He wants to come back into what is now the G7. It would become the G8 if Russia were allowed back in. He wants the idea of him as a war criminal to kind of evaporate and to be welcomed back among world leaders. He wants businesses to come back to Moscow and reopen significant commercial integration with Russia. And I think you're correct also, that mitigates against him making a surrender point here at all. Final thought, kudos to Steve Witkoff. I think Jared Kushner is all over this, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. They have brought U.S. and Ukraine together. Frankly, now the hard part begins, taking that combined proposal to Putin, shoring it up with the Europeans, and putting the kind of pressure you and I just discussed on Putin to get him at least to the table. Let's see what happens in Moscow this week.
Absolutely. It's great to see you, Admiral. As always, thank you so much.